Welcome to the Financial Coaches Podcast, where we talk about how to build your practice from startup to scale up while being the kind of coach your clients crave. Finally, a podcast for financial coaches. Here are your hosts, Maria Casillas and Cody Sizemore.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Financial Coaches Podcast. Cody and I are excited to have you here today because we are going to talk about beta clients. This is probably going to be a quick episode, but it's definitely going to be valuable. So strap in. We're going to be talking about what a beta client is, how many you might decide you want to have when you're starting out, and whether or not to pay, charge for those clients or not, whether you do that for free or paid. And then we're going to talk about some of the benefits of having a beta client. So welcome to the podcast. Let's get going. Cody, hi.
Hi. How are you?
Good to see you today. I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Oh, not bad. Not bad. It's
Good.
a beautiful day. Sun is shining. I feel good.
Yes. And speaking of beautiful day and sun shining, my windows are open. If you happen to hear any jets fly by, I will do my best to mute myself out. But for those of you who are listening, please do excuse if you happen to hear one of those because they're a little bit active today. So let's get right on to our topic of beta clients. This is a really common question that we get from a lot of the coaches that we work with.
Yeah, so beta clients is something that I think is very, very important, especially if you're like a newer coach that's listening in. This is something that I think that every new coach should at least strongly consider. Whether they do it or not is up to them, but I believe in it full-heartedly, mostly because I have also done it myself and I had success with it. And looking back at it, I was like, man, if I wouldn't have done that and started working with people with like an actual coaching relationship, like a professional thing, where I'm charging them and like the whole nine. My first couple clients, I would probably call them up today and apologize.
Well, that is good to know. Very good to know. And what's interesting is I would like to add one thing in there. You mentioned that this is really good for people who are just starting out as coaches. I might also say that this is really good for seasoned coaches who are pivoting in their business. So if there is any sort of, now I want to work with this particular niche that I haven't been working with before, you might consider doing a beta client, beta test in that instance as well. So I didn't mention in the intro that we could actually talk about what a beta client is. Would you mind, Cody, giving us just a little bit of a definition in your mind of what that even means?
Sure. So to me, a beta client would be someone that you work with for a specific period of time that maybe you do for either a really severely not, I guess it doesn't have to be severely, but just a discounted rate, right?
Okay.
Than what you would normally charge, or having it be free as well. And basically the trade-off would be that, hey, you're going to get that experience, you're going to get the practice, you're going to figure out, what works and what doesn't. They're going to get help from you as well with their finances. And then in return, you might want to ask for a written or video testimonial that then you can use for marketing, put on your website, stuff like that. And that's essentially what a beta client to me is. It's just something, it's like a trial, essentially. It's a trial for your coaching. It's a trial for, your clients, for you to kind of just work out the kinks.
And if I may, it's probably more about you than it is about the client. And when I say that, I'm talking about your level of confidence. When you started out, you said, man, I probably would call those people back and apologize for, the work that I did with him. And I'm just going to push back on you a little bit, Cody, because that's what I do. I bet you wouldn't have to call them and apologize. What that says to me is that you have grown as a coach, which is fantastic. We can't expect to be the same coach for our first clients that we are for the clients today. And right. I don't think, though, that takes away from the value that you brought to those clients in that moment for them. So please, please, please don't discount whether you're Cody Sizemore or listening in today. Don't discount the value that you did bring to them, because you are comparing that to who you are now as a coach, and that's just not fair, right? So so don't you dare go back and apologize for any of that. You probably helped them move the needle more than you ever really would know. So I appreciate you for letting me put that in there.
Definitely. And with the people that were my beta clients, I know for a fact that they benefited from the coaching. Because they did get real results, and they did, like, they left the coaching in a better position, in a better mindset than where they first came into it.
Yeah.
I'm being overly critical of myself, because I know, like, hey, like, year and a half, 2 years later, fast forward, and it's a totally different thing for me now, and I look back at those beta clients, I'm like, I wish I could have done this with them, or I wish I could have done that with them. But, it served its purpose. Like, that was why I did that, to learn those things. And I definitely learned a lot within that process.
Yeah, awesome. It really becomes a win-win for you and the client. They're learning a lot, you're learning a lot about you, about the process, etc. I know that one of the most common questions we get about beta clients, and you sort of alluded to it when you were defining them. I heard it in your voice when you talked about deeply discount. Well, it doesn't have to be deeply discount. It's because you've got that going on in your own mind, right? Do we charge for these beta clients, the work that we do with them, or do we do it absolutely free? Let's talk about that a little bit. What say you?
I think it's totally up to whoever wants to do it. Like, if a coach wants to charge for it, then cool.
So what are the pros and cons of each? What do you think? What
so obviously, if you charge for it, you're getting paid for your time. You're getting paid for the value that you're going to be bringing in, and that's a pro. But I think a con might be is that, especially if you're a brand new coach, or or like you said, like you're stepping into a new niche of coaching, you may go into this and you may charge someone for it, and maybe things just don't work the way that you expected them, and you have to make a switch somewhere for your future clients. Well, with the beta clients, you don't necessarily get that opportunity all the time. Sometimes you do, to be able to fix those things, but sometimes you don't. And if you're charging someone for that, like, it's a different feeling. I just feel like you're more on the hook, and you have to play it a little bit more safe. And you can't really expand and experiment as much as you would like to see what actually does work, and kind of push that envelope. So if you were to do it for free, which is what I personally did, I felt like, hey, like, these people are showing up not because they have to, but because they want to. And I'm doing the same, like, I want to do this. And even if I were to just fail, which I knew I wouldn't, but even if I did, I could walk away with it and be like, well, that was a learning experience for me. They didn't have to pay me, so, like, it wasn't any sort of, like, thing on them. So I feel good about that, at least. And it gave me the permission to experiment, and the permission to try things out to see if they worked or not, and to see if how the clients responded to those things, because I had never done this before when I was doing my beta clients. I had no idea really what I was doing. I mean, like, I had a good general framework of what I thought I should be doing, and I ran with that, and that worked for a certain period of time. But over time, obviously, your coaching has, it's evolved, and it's gotten better in some ways, and there's pros and cons to both. But me personally, what I did not charge.
Okay. So I hear what you're saying. I think it's all very, very valid. I am curious, though, what could be a con for them if you don't charge?
They don't take it as seriously. I had 3 beta clients. 2 of them took it seriously. And 1 did not. Like, it was, like, bad, and oddly enough, that experience actually helped me more than like the other two that did take it seriously.
How so?
Because when I first started charging officially, I was really undercharging for my services. And it took me, rather than like having like, 10 clients for 6 months or whatever to finally learn this lesson, because I had that experience with that beta client, it only took me like a month or two of undercharging for me to realize very early on that I'm like, listen, this is not enough because people are not taking this seriously. And I had to raise my prices like 2 months into coaching. And I was, that was scary, but I recognized the pattern from the beta client, and I was like, this is not good. I need to do something to change it. And when I raised the prices, people started caring more because they were more invested into it. It actually, it was more painful. It was a good pain because they're invested into it and they took it more seriously.
Yep. And I'm really glad you brought it up. That's kind of what I was going for. I do know that we will probably cover how to price your services in a completely different episode. So I'm going to bring it back to the beta piece of it now. But I think all of those things that you just mentioned are definitely ones we're going to have to revisit when we have that discussion, because it's absolutely true. You mentioned that you had 3 beta clients. And so I'd like to ask the question for our listeners, what's a good number for having beta clients? How did you land on 3? Is that something that you would suggest for people, and why?
Yeah, I mean, I think it depends on how much work you want to try, and work you want to have on your plate. When I did it, I told myself I wanted to have anywhere from 3 to 5. And then as I got the 3, I was just kind of like, yeah, this is good enough. 5 is probably too much. But I didn't want just one, because I wanted to have like different types of people to see like what kind of person I enjoyed working with more. So having 3 made it diverse enough for me to really kind of find that quote unquote ideal client earlier on too, which I think is another good benefit of having beta clients.
Yeah, absolutely. It also gives you an opportunity to not just try out your processes, but to start documenting them so that you can make things a little bit more automated. You can make them more consistent with future clients going forward. So I think that that's another real benefit. I do find it very fascinating, though, that if we were to peel back the layers of everything that you have said, it really all comes down to you and your confidence in your skill set, and your ability to serve the people who you are wanting to serve. So I find that very fascinating, because I think if we are driven by that, then it's going to be very difficult to define a number that we're going to feel confident enough. And so that's why I encourage our listeners to say, just pick a number and just stick with it. It could be 1 client, it could be 3 clients, if you want to go 5, but don't make it about, well, when I feel confident enough that I'm giving them the right value. Like, if you are a coach with integrity, which I know that all of our listeners are, you're never going to feel like you're giving enough. That's something that's going on up here for us, not something that is going on in the reality of our clients' lives, right? And so I just want to make sure that as you guys are figuring out how many to choose, how many to work with, you keep that in mind. The other thing I'd like to bring up is that most of the clients that we have worked with, and by clients I mean the coaching clients that we've worked with, they have almost, and you correct me if I'm wrong, Cody, but I feel like 90% of the people whose stories we hear are always like, goes something like, I had a problem. I figured out how to make that happen. I started helping people who were asking me, how the heck did you do what you did? It was friends, it was family, and chances are they weren't charging them.
Yep.
That was happening before we decided in our heads, oh, I think maybe I should start a business as a financial coach. And here's what I'm going to tell people who are listening today. Those people are your beta clients. You don't have to then say, well, now I've put this on the schedule and now I need to, have this number of beta clients ahead of time to increase my confidence. If those people were coming to you and you weren't charging them and they were feeling helped by you, as far as I'm concerned, you can consider those your beta clients. And now you have permission to charge people moving forward. Now, having said that, it could be a much discounted rate. That's okay. Just remember, having them have a little skin in the game is actually in their best interest. So that's why I want to make sure that everyone's not just running out and doing free coaching for everybody, because it's not just about us getting paid. It's about them having to make a payment so that they are in the game, right? So that's something that I would like to just emphasize there. The other thing that you mentioned was testimonials, and that was one thing that I have always believed is a really great value for having beta clients, whether they are free or deeply discounted. For me, the exchange is, here's the value I'm going to give you. Could you please then provide me a testimonial that I can use? I believe that video testimonials are actually best if you can get both a written and a video one. I also think this, and this is a trick that I tried, and I don't know if a lot of new coaches think about this, but we like to ask people to give us a testimonial and then have them just gush about us, right? Like, just tell me all the fantastic things about me. No one wants to read all the fantastic things about us. They really don't. What they want to know is, what results did we help our clients get? And so sometimes as coaches, we need to almost write the testimonial for them and say, here's what we seem to have gotten. Do you believe this to be true? Yes. Would you sign your name off on it? Yes. And you're kind of doing it for them. So I actually created something called a done for you review. And I believe that I had sent that to you, Cody, at one point when we had done something. I don't know if you remember it, but I called it done for you. The number 4 is in there. And the reason it's done, the reason it's called that is because it was 4 questions. And I was very specific with the questions. If I said, like, after one session, how did you feel? And I listed probably 15 or 20 different emotions and let them check all that applied. And so now when I go and write the testimonial, I can say, after one session, I felt ... And it was true because they said it was. And now it's using the language that I want future clients to be able to hear. So we weren't going to talk about that at all today. So I'm sorry I kind of went off. But I think the reason for that is because if you're going to do a beta client, part of the reason you want to do that is because you want to figure out what works, what doesn't work, what resonated with that client. And as you can hear what resonates with them, now you can know how to attract the ones that you actually want.
Yeah, 100%. And another thing that I want to point out too with beta clients is I think that it's a smart idea, in actually like one of the most important things, to put a time limit on that.
Yes.
Obviously you don't want to be doing free coaching for people for life,
Yes.
like, you know
yes,
what I mean?
Great point.
Yeah, so put a time limit on it. Whatever you think is best for you. I personally, when I did my beta clients, I did 4 months, because I knew that, generally speaking, it would take around 3 months to get a decent budget up and running, and I wanted to have at least one more to kind of get past the budget. Mm-hmm. So I did 4 months, but you could do 3 months. I mean, you could do 6 months. You could do however long you want, but make sure that there is a time limit on there. And then when that time limit does come up, definitely get those testimonials. And another thing you could do too, if you really enjoyed the process of working with said client, and you feel that they also enjoyed the process of working with you, you could then ask them, hey, do you want to continue coaching and be, my first official client? You don't have to actually say that part, but you can ask them if they want to continue with coaching, but have it be paid. And some will say no. I would say that probably the majority of them might say no because they feel like they got what it was worth because it was free or whatever. But you might strike a chord with someone, and they might actually turn into possibly your first client. And that's what happened with me. 2 of them told me no, and one of them was my first client. And that client, by the way, is still with me today.
Amazing.
And she has no signs of stopping.
Yeah.
So,
I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's one of the things I was going to say as well, is that, when you said you could put a time limit on it, the other way to look at it is you can put a a process limit on it. I really don't know the best way to describe it or say it, but like, I'm going to get you through, this particular first 2 steps, for example, of whatever it is that I typically do. And then it's a great way to then invite them into, let's do step 3 together as well, right? And now, so rather than just saying, I'm going to get you from point A to point B, and we're going to do everything, your entire process is free, and it might take about 4 months, just make it so that it is a natural progression to invite them into coaching with you. So I didn't even have to say it because you did such a good job with it. Sorry, I had to plug my computer in. That's why you saw me just kind of leave for a second. It was...
For those who couldn't see Maria, she was doing some like interpretive dancing or something back
there.
Yeah,
right. No, I figured it was better for you to have to see that than for it to just completely die on us. So I appreciate that. I was listening to you, though. So I think that we've kind of covered a lot here today, and I think it's probably a good spot to wrap up. I don't think that there's anything specific that we wanted to say about this that we haven't, unless you are remembering something else. We've actually covered quite a bit of ground here.
I don't think so. I think the only thing that I would like to add, simply just because I had a conversation with another coach just a couple days ago about this, which is why we wanted to talk about it today. Just to not to sound like a broken record, but we do have that Facebook group for financial coaches. It's a free group. It's called New Money Habits Financial Coaches, and that's a great place to get plugged in and connect with us, as well as several other like-minded coaches. And the reason I'm even bringing it up is because I connected with a new coach who just joined that group recently. She was a listener of this podcast, and I had a great conversation with her. Talked to her on the phone for probably about half an hour, and beta clients was one of the topics that we talked about. She's trying to get things up and running, and she's just wondering how to start and where to start. Yeah. And we talked about this, and I think that connecting through the Facebook group is a really good thing to do any day of the week, any time of the day, and you're gonna have interaction. You're gonna have that community, and it's just a good place to be. So I just wanted to invite you guys into that because I know that I personally get value from it, and I would love for you to also get value from that as well.
Yeah, and it's free. I mean, we're not selling you anything. You might as well come in. And right now, it's nice and small. It's a very intimate group, which I absolutely love. I mean, we will invite as many people who want to join, but I can tell you in honesty that right now, we respond, right? I mean, if it's not the admins who are there, it's the other amazing coaches who are in there, and they're connecting in the group, they're connecting outside of the group. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, Cody, because it really has been a fun thing to watch other people grow.
Yeah, 100%. So, well, alrighty, guys. Thank you for listening today and our topic about beta clients. Be sure to tune in next week. We got some fun stuff there and some stuff that I'm personally pretty excited about as well. So
yeah, me too.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for listening. Have a great rest of your week. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Financial Coaches Podcast, brought to you by New Money Habits and Sizemore Financial Coaching. Submit your questions to our host by emailing podcast@newmoneyhabits.com. Be sure to subscribe to be notified of future episodes and join our growing group of like-minded coaches on Facebook. And until next time, happy coaching. Music provided by Summer School.